It's 2023, everyone, and we cannot escape the 90s. Here we are talking about tactical RPGs, but this time I'm talking about tactical RPGs that are best for the beginner. Let's do a versus of Tactics Ogre Reborn versus Triangle Strategy. So I decided to start with graphics. Now, typically not a strong suit of this genre, but there's a really distinct difference between the two games. This one is a game that came out in the early 90s, mid-90s for the Super Famicom, and the graphics have been largely updated, but they still have the limitations. They still kind of have that core base for the game that has not been radically overhauled. You can see a lot of the pixelated 16-bit games that we love, but for this, I'm going to give it a little bit of a ding and give it a 3 out of 5. Now for Triangle Strategy, it didn't have that historical game to build on. It had to start really from scratch. What we see here is a very similar look to Octopath Traveler, and in that, you kind of have a capability of making that 3D, 2D image come to life. I think the backgrounds make the difference for this game. I think there's a lot of the game that gives that retro 16-bit, but you also have the movement that's better. You have a lot of the graphical, just general interface, which I'll get on a little bit. And for this reason, I think it's just that little bit better. You know, it's crisp. You've got the background depth. It's got a little bit more of an overhead. And for this, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5, just 1 point higher, and giving respect to both candidates. So on this one, we'll let Serenoa take the point. Now for the next category, soundtrack, they're actually both amazing. I actually cannot play either one of them because this video will be muted. So let's give it a 1-to-1, and it's now 1-to-2. Length of game, now this is where we start seeing quite a bit of a difference. The two games are generally similar. However, Triangle Strategy has a lot more guardrails on it, so you really can't go off. Tactics Ogre, a lot more complex, a lot more different things, and the time involved in both is actually representative here. A lot more for Tactics Ogre. So we're going to give 1 point there to Tactics Ogre Reborn, and Denim ties it up, 2-2. Gameplay. Gameplay is subjective. What you like may not be what I like. But I can tell you, there are some very distinct differences, and I think this goes back to the age of the games and the base that they had to start with. The biggest drawback I feel to Tactics Ogre Reborn is the user interface and the user experience. The interface could be improved, the experience could be improved, but what you find is a lot of clicks and a lot of button mashing to get where you need to be. This is not such a big deal when you played the original, but I think for the new person that's actually trying to get into this genre, trying to get into a particular tactical RPG, that is going to be off-putting. It's a lot more clicks, a lot more things to accomplish something that really should just be 1 or 2. This is something that when they start looking at the next game they're going to give this treatment to, which I hope is all of them, to be honest, Final Fantasy Tactics deserves to have incorporated a lot of the features that we've all become used to as tactical RPG players, as well as the capability for new players to be brought into the genre because of the same features. I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. Not horrible, not great, just right in the middle. So Triangle Strategy, again, was able to build on a base of Octopath Traveler and a lot of the games that have a much better interface. You can see here much cleaner lines, much cleaner understanding of what player you're on, and also where you can move, and also what different squares could actually be hit by a spell or by an attack. So when we look at Cure Wounds being cast here, we knew exactly where it was going to go. We know where we could move. We know if we move to that spot, we have the capability of then hitting someone from range. So it just is a really easy way in Triangle Strategy to figure out exactly what you're doing, where you are, and even who's up next. Now, if you look at the bottom there, they have who's up on deck to be able to have the action next. They do have that in Tactics Ogre. It's not as clean, and just the little simple things like those triangles are giving us the visibility to who actually has the ability to do something. So for this, I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. Much cleaner interface, much easier to click. So now Triangle Strategy, you've got Serenoa taking the lead 3-2. Availability. Now this is definitely not perfect for either one, but this one has Switch, PlayStation, Steam. Triangle Strategy, however, only has Switch and Steam. Xbox completely left off both. That's going to tie this up. So what does that leave us? That leaves us with a tiebreaker. We have to figure this out after 5 rounds. Now remember, this video is for the beginner, and I'm going to show you one feature in Triangle Strategy that I think tips the scales. And it's something extremely simple, but it's one that Tactics Ogre does not have. And that is the ability to select difficulty. That is such a simple thing to put in, and it makes, to me, all the difference for a beginner. So for that, I'm going to give the win to Triangle Strategy. However, due to some of these factors, you may actually be in a spot where you'd say, look, I have an Xbox. I can't even play either one. Or I have a PlayStation. Tactics Ogre is right for me. You know, there's really lots of factors here beyond that. I just wanted to give what I consider my level of accessibility for the beginner, my view on playing both games. I'm nearly to the end of Tactics Ogre Reborn. I beat the original one, and I can say they're both great. I would honestly, from an experience standpoint, I would take Triangle Strategy first to get used to the genre, and then I would take the complexity of Tactics Ogre Reborn as my second game. So let me know what you think in the comments. Am I off? Am I right? Am I somewhere in between? Would love to hear from you. Would love to hear any questions. And if you like the video, please give it a like. That keeps it moving. And if you're not subscribed, maybe consider doing that. Take care, everyone. Hope you're having a great day and a great start to 2023.